Hi, so welcome to part one of today's video. Is the planning gain strategy dead? My name's Neil Scroxton and I'm the Managing Director of Scroxton & Partners. We're planners, architects and construction management professionals. If you're joining us again, welcome back. And if you're a new visitor, please feel free to subscribe and tick the bell so that you get reminded when we're releasing new content. Okay, so what I want to do with today's video series is I want to start a discussion. I want people that are working in the industry to talk about whether or not they think planning gain strategy is dead or alive, and the experience that they're having when sites are coming through to them. As an architect, I'm getting really sick of seeing these planning applications fall on my desk that are sent to me by developers that would love to build houses and put them into the market, but the planning applications that have been gained and put onto the available land are terrible. They're not going to make money and they're not going to stack. I had this problem a couple of months ago. A site was dropped on my desk that promised 20% on GDV, and the developer that wanted to buy it wanted me to have a look at the numbers and see whether I could get it to stack. And on the face of it, it looked like a good project. When I looked at the information that was sent over from the agent, as far as the paperwork was concerned, this project was going to make 20% on GDV. So the scheme was 12 units. It had a £3.4 million gross development value. The profit was targeted at about 680k, and the site was only up for £900,000. Easy money. So whenever I get an opportunity like this, I always look at the numbers. The problem is that sellers packs are quite often very, very optimistic. Sometimes they look at GDV, so they look at sales figures that are futuristic, which is no good because you cannot guess what the market's going to be like in a few months' time. And sometimes they're just missing some very, very key information about build costs and what it's actually going to take to implement that project. And in this case, our developer client came with the question, can I buy this site and how much can I offer for the land? So as we started to unwind the numbers on this project, we started to realise there were a few issues, and these issues are quite common with projects that come forward. First of all, one of the big issues was there was a very, very expensive water attenuation scheme designed by the structural engineer as part of the planning application, and that clearly hadn't been taken into any of the construction numbers. The next thing we noticed was the poor design of the units. Now, by poor design, I don't mean that they were ugly looking. You know, so if you looked at the street elevation, it was quite a pleasant looking scheme. The issue with the design came down to the units, the unit types and the unit sizes. When you looked at the size of the unit versus current standards for 1-bed, 2-bed, 3-bed units versus market conditions, there were hundreds of square meters in those designs that you would have to build, but you couldn't actually put any value to when you put it out on the market, which meant you were just not getting the right bang for your buck from construction through to sale. Furthermore, through the planning process, lots of add-ons had been put in, certainly to do with sustainability, electric cars, bike parking, etc., etc., etc. All of these things that are going to just keep adding to the construction budget, but not necessarily add to the GDV. And so by the time you factored all of these extras in that had come about through the planning process, and then you covered off the cost of borrowing and the cost of implementation, all of a sudden the site value at 900,000 diminished very, very quickly to around 300,000, and you were getting to the point where it's just not going to be worthwhile moving the project forward unless you're a cash buyer and a cash developer. So what's the problem here? Actually, it's quite straightforward. It all comes down to the original land price. It all comes down to that deal that was done with the landowner on day one, and trying as we might to keep profit in the deal all the way through the planning process. Now, you have to remember that planning departments are not there to commercially help you as a developer. Planning departments are there to get certain results for the local community, and so they don't really care whether or not you're going to make your profit, and you have to take that risk level into account when you set up these deals. Quite often, most of these deals are set up with options. They're set up with the whole no money down strategy in place, and in reality, all that does is that moves the pressure through to the sale point instead of actually dealing with the problem of a difficult site. So when you combine the pressure of a bad deal, a bad option being set up, with the fact that local agents are not using good construction data, and to be fair to them, they don't actually have the experience or the knowledge to talk about construction and construction prices. You're bringing together factors that are going to create the perfect storm for your site not to be sold, and nobody makes a profit if a site doesn't sell. So thank you for watching part 1 of Is the Planning Game Strategy Dead? As always, if you like the content that we're creating, please subscribe and tick the little bell so that you get reminded when new videos come out. Please leave comments to start a discussion about the topic, and follow us on Instagram and Facebook. My name's Neil Scroxton, and this has been part 1 of Is the Planning Game Strategy Dead?